everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name's Jemima, I'm in recovery from an eating disorder and I'm finding faith through the fight. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 things which you wouldn't think are hard for someone in recovery, but definitely are. Now obviously everybody's ED is different, so these might not be hard for one person and could be really hard for another person, but these are just 5 things that I found myself to be quite difficult in recovery and things that other people just wouldn't expect to be. And most of these things as well are hard when you still have an active eating disorder and haven't tried to recover. So the first thing is kind of gross, but it's needing the toilet a lot and just being really gassy. So when you're recovering from a restrictive eating disorder, your stomach isn't used to eating so much food. So when you suddenly start eating so much again, your stomach can't really keep up with it. And it's going to take some time for it to readjust and learn how to deal with eating so much food again. That coupled with the fact that in recovery, you often crave loads of really sugary and high carb foods, which when you eat a lot of can make you quite gassy. So you will find that your friends who are recovering will be going to the loo quite a lot and probably be quite gassy, which is kind of gross, but it happens. So the thing to do about that is try not to mention it, try not to beat them up about it, just encourage them and tell them it's okay because they don't want to be embarrassed by it. Always try to be somewhere near toilets so that you're not too far away in case something happens. And sometimes they might just be having a bad day, and even though it's good to encourage people recovering from an eating disorder to engage in social activities, if they're just feeling kind of gross and gassy, they might not want to go out and see people, and just accept that that is okay. Okay, so the second thing is eating with a big plate or bowl, or also using big cutlery. Now the thing behind this is when you have a restrictive eating disorder, you try to trick your brain, and one of the tricks to do this is to eat on a small plate so it looks like there's more food on there, and to eat with small cutlery so it takes a longer amount of time to eat the food on your plate, so therefore you will be fuller for longer. Now this doesn't actually really work as a concept, but it can become ingrained as a habit in your brain when you have an active eating disorder. So breaking that habit can be really difficult. Now to help someone through this, just encourage them and keep telling them that it's okay and they're doing the right thing, and then say well done afterwards. It's a little thing, but it will mean a lot. Now the third thing that's hard is being in noisy places. Now this is especially difficult when you're around food and trying to eat, especially in recovery, when you are making yourself eat because you want to be able to enjoy the normal social situations. But when you eat, or just when your thoughts are really loud because you're in recovery and you're combating those thoughts, they're really loud in your head and it can feel noisy even when it's quiet around you. So being in noisy spaces just adds to that noise and makes it even more stressful for someone with an eating disorder. Now you can help with this by trying not to make loads of noise around them, but also trying not to bring them to really noisy places. And if you are somewhere where it gets really noisy, just be conscious that they might be getting stressed out or overwhelmed and ask if they want to leave or go outside for a little bit to calm down. Okay, so the fourth thing is getting your period back or going through puberty again. Now you don't always go through puberty again, but when you stop eating so much, some people lose their periods. Not everybody, I'd like to add, but some people with a restrictive ED do lose their periods. And for some people, it will have no effect at all. But for those people who do, then your hormones go all over the place. And when you start eating again, your hormones kind of come back stronger. So you could start getting your period again, which can be really stressful because even though it's a good sign and it's a sign of recovery, it can be stressful because your eating disorder knows that it's being beaten. So it's kind of painful for the person who's experiencing it. There's also other things as well, like just getting loads of hot flushes and becoming really spotty if you kind of struggled with acne in your early teenage years and then you get an eating disorder. Those hormones kind of go away, and when they come back, you can struggle with acne again as well. Now there are lots of other things as well, but it's just being aware that they kind of sometimes end up sort of going through a second puberty again. Now the way that you can help with this is just don't really talk negatively about it. Don't mention it unless you have to and it's going to be helpful. Acknowledge that there will be some mood swings. There will be with the difficulty of recovering from an eating disorder anyway, but then just the added hormones won't help. Also, just ask them what you can do to help. And you could even make up a little practical period kit, because if they haven't had their period in a while, just dealing with and sorting all those practical elements will mean that it's a lot less stressful when they only have to think about the psychological elements of it. And the fifth thing is praying and reading the Bible. This applies to any form of concentration as well, but personally I found that praying and reading the Bible was really, really hard. Definitely really hard when I had a very active eating disorder, but also in recovery, because my brain was just so overwhelmed, and it would find it so hard to just focus on one thing at one time. That added to the fact that the enemy is trying to get at you and to have you keep your eating disorder and not overcome it. So anytime you try to connect with God, it will kind of try and swerve you in the other way and sort of interject, and yeah, it's just not helpful. So praying and reading the Bible for long periods of time can be really, really hard. Now, something you can do to help with this is just suggest praying with them to keep them concentrated, or even reading the Bible with them. And don't be dismayed if they don't look like they're listening, or if you're in a prayer circle and they don't want to pray. It's fine. Maybe they've just got distracted. Maybe they have a lot of conflict going on in their head. You just need to respect that and let that go, and know that it will get better over time. My best advice is to just keep it short and sweet. Tell them that they can just read a verse a day and that's okay. Okay, so that's the 5 things. There are a lot more things that are hard to do in recovery, but these are just 5 things that I thought that most people wouldn't think are difficult for people in recovery. I hope that was helpful. See you next week.